Now for your business news. The rush to front load ahead of tariffs has faded. With that, new orders for U.S. manufacturers, goods dropped sharply in April. The Commerce Department Census Bureau reported that factory orders dipped almost 4%. Compare that to a jump of about 3% in March. At the same time, the department saw business investments on equipment lose momentum. This is measured by orders for non-defense goods, excluding aircrafts. This number decreased about 1.5%. A first for Meta. The tech company is powering up with nuclear energy. This comes as the demand for power increases with the rise of artificial intelligence and data centers. The social media giant struck a deal with Constellation Energy. It will keep one of the utility's reactors in Illinois operating for 2 decades. The Clinton Clean Energy Center may have been forced to close down in the coming years when an emissions credit program expired. Meta's power purchase will replace this and help the relicensing and operations. U.S. shoppers can charge it on Klarna. The Swedish fintech firm has announced the pilot of a new debit card for the U.S. The Buy Now, Pay Later pioneer has partnered with Visa to compete more directly with traditional banks. Klarna will now allow consumers to pay immediately or choose interest-free options to pay over time for both online and in-store purchases. The trial is underway in the U.S. right now, with plans for a broader rollout in the U.S. and Europe later this year. The Federal Aviation Administration said it plans to boost the number of flights at Newark Liberty International Airport next week. The move comes after a runway reopened yesterday, nearly 2 weeks ahead of schedule.
We had 3 problems. One, the runway was getting rebuilt, and again today we're celebrating 13 days early. We had a telecom issue. That new fiber is laid, but it has to be tested. And then we have the staffing issue with air traffic controllers. So all of those things on a rolling basis are going to come online, and as that happens, we're going to be able to expand the capacity of the airport.
I feel the best that I've ever felt about particularly fixing the FAA, and the reason is because Secretary Duffy is on it. He's an action-oriented. He wants to fix it. He's coming to Newark to help.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said if all goes well, then the FAA plans to boost flights at Newark. And the runway should be certified by June 10th. Crews worked day and night to complete the construction project, 13 days ahead of schedule. Newark has been plagued by cancellations and delays this spring. The FAA limited the airport to 28 arrivals and 28 departures per hour last month because of the construction and because of staff shortages. Officials say there are another 16 experienced controllers in training who should be certified by October to help with the shortage. Next, a major push is underway to ramp up oil and gas production in Alaska. Trump administration officials are in the state this week outlining a plan they say will restore American energy independence. Here's more.
President Trump is turning his focus to Alaska's vast reserves of oil and gas, the goal to double the flow of oil through the state's vast pipeline system and build a massive natural gas project to match. Energy Secretary Chris Wright made the announcement at Prudhoe Bay, a cold and windswept hub of oil activity near the Arctic Ocean, joined by Interior Secretary Doug Burgum and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Wright stood before a group of pipeline workers and officials, calling for what he described as freeing Alaska from limits on development.
The oil is here. The discoveries are here. If we free Alaska and the people here, we're going to more than double the oil flow through the pipeline and build the big, beautiful twin, the natural gas pipeline from the North Slope.
The visit underscores Trump's broader energy agenda to roll back regulations and revive long-stalled projects in Alaska. The Biden-era rule at the heart of the rollback has shut off millions of acres to drilling and development in Alaska's National Petroleum Reserve. Trump officials argue it choked off access to key domestic resources and threatened the nation's energy security. Now the administration says it's restoring the balance. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline has long been the state's economic lifeline, but its output, once 2 million barrels a day, has steadily declined. Today, it's less than a quarter of that. Now, with White House support, state leaders hope to reverse that trend. And at town halls in rural Alaska, Trump's energy plan is drawing cheers from some native communities who say they were ignored by the previous administration. The president of Voice, a nonprofit that aims to create a unified voice for the indigenous communities of North Slope, said Monday, too often federal decisions are made without the engagement of the people these decisions will affect the most. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum told Fox News the people who live here know the advantages of this project.
And these folks up here, they care about the land, they care about the wildlife, they care about their communities. They know that this development can be done safely and smartly here.
The Trump administration isn't just pushing to pump more oil, it's also looking to sell more of it overseas. Officials say Alaska's North Slope could become a key hub for exports, with energy-rich partnerships aimed at countries like Japan and South Korea. But environmentalists have criticized the planned rollback of restrictions. Eric Graff, an attorney with the organization Earth Justice, called the Trump administration's intense focus on oil and gas troubling, particularly in a state experiencing the real-time impacts of climate change.
The number of available jobs in the U.S. unexpectedly increased in April. The Bureau of Labor Statistics said there were an estimated 7.4 million job openings at the end of April. That's up from 7.2 million in March. Economists were expecting a drop in openings for a third month in a row. This now signals a potential undercurrent of strength in the labor market despite broader economic uncertainty. Employers are also bringing more people on board. Hiring jumped to its highest rate in 7 months, and the number of estimated hires was the highest in nearly a year. An update on how the federal government handles defaulted student loans. The Department of Education says it will not deduct Social Security benefits to collect the unpaid loans. The decision announced yesterday is meant to protect retirees who rely on fixed incomes. Officials say no Social Security offsets have occurred since repayments resumed in May, and that the pause will remain in place indefinitely. Roughly 25% of the over $1.5 trillion loan portfolio is expected to fall into default in the coming months. The department says it's working to connect borrowers with affordable repayment options and will begin direct outreach soon. Home sales taking a dip. They usually pick up in spring as buyers and sellers with families move before the new school year in fall. But this spring saw lagging home sales. Let's take a look at what's behind this.
Owning a home is part of the American dream, but it's a dream that's becoming unreachable for many.
It's been a tough environment.
Lawrence Yoon with the National Association of Realtors says higher sticker prices and high mortgage rates are turning away potential buyers.
That is the big barrier to overcome. And right now, at the moment, the Federal Reserve is on pause, reluctant to cut interest rate, so that is hindering the current activity.
The median existing home sale price in April rose to $414,000. Prices have now gone up for 22 straight months. And as of last week, interest rates for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage were 6.89%, according to Freddie Mac, which is likely why pending home sale prices fell 6.3% in April in all 4 regions of the U.S. Experts warn prices are unlikely to come down anytime soon.
We are finding that home prices continue to hit new record highs.
But there is good news. Yoon says more homes are coming on the market, and that means buyers have more choices.
Good news for potential home buyers. Now they can ask for a little better price, maybe a little more negotiating room.
Next, Dollar General could benefit from President Donald Trump's tariffs. The company said Tuesday that for its stores that have been open for at least a year, sales increased 2.4% last quarter. That beat analysts' expectations. The discount chain also raised its profit forecast for the year. Discount stores tend to gain customers during periods of economic strain. And Dollar General said it did pick up market share from competitors in the last 3 months. The chain still could face some tariff pressure as it imports most of its products. A new and more serious warning from the federal government about the recall of tomatoes distributed in 3 states. The Food and Drug Administration has announced it is upgrading an ongoing recall of H&C Farms label tomatoes because of salmonella threat. It's the agency's most severe warning about the tomatoes, distributed by Williams Farms Repack LLC. The FDA's Class 1 warning means people could become seriously ill or die if they eat the product. The tomatoes were distributed between April 23rd and April 28th to stores in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. They were sold in either small packs of 3 or in packaging as large as 25 pounds. Next, China's manufacturing expansion hitting a roadblock, reverting back to 2022 lows. The impacts of Trump's tariffs seem to be showing their effects. NTD's Sean Marshall has more.
Data was released today showing a deterioration of operating conditions in China's manufacturing sector. That's according to a data report from May released by Caixin Media Company and S&P Global. Manufacturing output declined. New orders had a renewed drop. Export orders shrank at a faster pace. That matched reduced operations, which reduced purchasing activity and lowered staffing levels. This all culminated to the sharpest fall in new orders since September 2022. Pressure being applied by Trump administration tariffs isn't the only thing hurting China's manufacturing. Output prices have fallen for 6 straight months due to intense market competition. In the auto industry, for example, an intensifying price war in China has stoked fears of a long-anticipated shakeout in the world's largest car market. Robin Sheng, chief China economist at Morgan Stanley, said this underscores how supply-demand imbalances continue to fuel deflation. There's growing rhetoric about the need for rebalancing, but recent developments suggest the old supply-driven model remains intact. Thus, reflation is likely to remain elusive. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Diplomats and automakers are working to loosen China's grip on rare earth restrictions. Beijing now requires export licenses for 7 rare earth elements and several magnets. China controls more than 90% of the global processing capacity on rare earths, which are used in everything from cars to appliances and fighter jets. A European official said diplomats from countries with big auto industries have asked for an emergency meeting with China's Ministry of Commerce. Automakers in India have warned that they are close to shutting down. They say they are organizing a trip for executives in the coming weeks. The European Union is taking action to ensure trade fairness with China. It is backing a proposal to limit the participation of Chinese medical device suppliers in public contracts. The move comes after a finding that EU companies were not given fair access to China's public tenders. The measures will be the first under a special EU public contract instrument designed to ensure trade fairness. It allows excluding Chinese bidders from larger public tenders or attaching a penalty score to their bids for 5 years to tackle discrimination. The EU Commission has previously said it found clear evidence of unfair tender conditions in China that favored domestic suppliers. Popular weight loss drugs are gaining popularity among U.S. teens with obesity. New data reveals that Wegovy use is up among young people.
It appears more families and doctors are gaining confidence in the use of a popular weight loss drug by young people with obesity. New data shows that American teens are increasingly turning to Wegovy. The average rate of teens starting treatment with the Novo Nordisk drug grew 50% last year. This is based on data from health tracking firm Truveta. It shows around 15 prescriptions for every 100,000 teens. That's up from about 10 the year before. Last year was the first full year Wegovy was available to children 12 and older. The increase is still only a fraction of the number of teens living with obesity. The analysis did not include other GLP-1 drugs like Novo's Ozempic and Eli Lilly's Zepbound. Right now, those medications are not approved to treat obesity in adolescents. Some doctors have expressed concerns since the long-term safety of these medications on children during a critical phase in development is unknown.
Big Lots is making an even bigger comeback after recently opening dozens of stores in May. The discount retail chain announced more than 70 additional stores will open on Thursday, June 5th. Big Lots said the openings are in 9 states. They will be located in Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. Big Lots filed for bankruptcy last year and closed dozens of stores. Variety wholesalers acquired many of the chain's stores late last year. The hospitality industry is getting burned by a cool summer booking season. Americans are scaling back on their travel plans and waiting to book, even though plane ticket prices have dropped. U.S. summer flight bookings are down 10% year over year. This is based on data from online travel agency Flight Hub. Hotels are seeing a similar trend. The CEO of Hyatt Hotels says bookings fall off and get weaker about a month out. But by the time that month arrives, he says they recover. As a result, companies in the travel industry like Delta, Marriott, and Bookings Holdings have withdrawn or revised their forecasts for the year. Disney is cutting several hundred jobs across its film, TV, and corporate divisions as part of an ongoing push to streamline operations. The layoffs will impact marketing, publicity, casting, and finance roles. The company says the move reflects the fast-changing entertainment landscape and the need to operate more efficiently. It's the latest in a series of job cuts under CEO Bob Iger, who returned in 2022 with a plan to trim 7,000 positions to cut costs. Disney recently reported strong earnings with a 7% revenue increase and a surge in Disney Plus subscribers. The 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles has now eclipsed $1.5 billion in sponsorship revenue amid a flurry of deal-making in the first half of the year. Japanese automaker Honda is the latest to sign up. Here's more.
The race to sign sponsorship deals for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics is heating up. On Monday, Japanese auto giant Honda was the latest to say it had signed on the dotted line. It will be the official automotive partner for the Games and Team USA, providing a fleet of vehicles for athletes. Honda will also partner with the US team at the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy. LA28 President Casey Wasserman hailed the deal at a news conference.
Honda's LA roots make this partnership even more meaningful as we work to deliver a Games that will make Angelinos proud.
With the deal, the LA Games has now passed $1.5 billion in total sponsorship agreements. That follows a flurry of deal-making in the first half of this year. Officials at LA28, the private non-profit company organising the Games, told Reuters they were confident of hitting a target of $2.5 billion. That would more than double the deals done for the Paris Olympics last year. But it wouldn't beat the $3 billion record set by Tokyo 2020. LA28 has announced a half-dozen deals so far this year. That includes making Archer Aviation its official air taxi provider and naming analytics firm Snowflake as its data partner. LA28 has a roughly $7 billion budget for the event. Besides domestic sponsorship deals like the one with Honda, it also gets money from the International Olympic Committee and its sponsors. Other revenue sources include ticket and merchandise sales. The 1984 LA Olympics turned a profit and became a model for future games. However, many subsequent host cities, including Sydney, Athens and Rio de Janeiro, blew way past their budgets.
The U.S. stock market closed higher today. It was boosted by gains in Nvidia and other chip makers. Optimism rose after news that President Trump and China's Xi Jinping will speak this week. Tech stocks like Nvidia and Broadcom both rising amid hopes that chip exports could benefit from upcoming trade discussions. Other market movers include Dollar General, which surged on strong earnings, Pinterest, which rose on a JP Morgan upgrade, and Reddit, which dropped after a major outage. And that's it for today's Business Matters.